Hey, you guys, this is the Couplings Fire podcast. Here's a couple of things you might need to know, or maybe you just forgot. I'm Taylor, a volunteer firefighter and also a firewife to my favorite firefighter. Join me as I talk anything and everything fire related. I don't claim to be an expert, I just love to talk fire, and I'm not afraid to get into real and deep discussions. Everything I say is my own opinion and does not reflect the opinions of any agency or organization I am associated with. Let's get on with the episode. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Couplings Fire podcast. I'm Taylor Anderson, and I am here with you. They're kind of with me. Okay, here with you for another really good episode. I'm excited about this one. So most of the guest episodes I have, we tend to do a big subject first and then a small section of family firefighter survival at the end. This one's kind of going to be switched. We're going to have a smaller, shorter kind of what we would normally call the bulk of the episode on a couple subjects we want to hit on, probably go down some rabbit trails. You know how I get. And then we're going to get into a big section of family firefighter survival because I think we have a lot to talk about, and I think it's going to be a very, very good one. So I have with me this week my guest, Jeremy Sanders from the Crew First Culture podcast. And Jeremy, I'm just going to let you say as much or as little as you want. Can you tell anybody just about yourself if they don't know who you are, if they haven't listened to your podcast yet?
Sure. Thank you very much, first of all, for having me on. You said excited. I've listened to a few of your episodes, and you always kind of you say that, and I think that's funny because I find myself saying it too, and I find myself telling myself not to say it
because
right? it sounds ingenuine, but no, I get it. I'm excited every time I get to talk to somebody that enjoys talking, fire service, family, any of this stuff. I get excited. So yeah, I say it a lot. But Jeremy Sanders, I work for a full-time career department just north of Oklahoma City. I actually live just south of Tulsa, so I've got about 100-mile drive into the firehouse. I've been there. It'll be 20 years in July. It's flying by. I'm currently at the rank of captain. I've been there for about 4 years, I believe, and love it. I absolutely love the opportunity to lead a crew, lead a firehouse, and have the responsibility of how we are, the culture of the place, if we're enjoying being there, all of that, how well we are prepared. I just enjoy everything to do with that instead of kind of being at the whim of whatever forces are kind of being created, actually having control over, this is my place and this is how we want to run it. I love it. So anyway, that's me. I know we're going to get into family a little bit later, but I've got a beautiful wife, a very big blended family. We've got 7 kids. Actually, we claim 8. We when we got together, we had 2 foster kids. We adopted one, and the other one we adopt every chance we get. Still got adopted by another family, but we love having them here. So big family. We live on a small 10-acre farm. We've kind of fluctuate. We don't have a lot of animals right now, but we have had a lot of animals in the past, and we're kind of in the process of downgrading a little bit so that we're able to spend more time with family instead of taking care of animals all the time. But that's about it. I started a little thing called Crew First Culture a couple years ago because I wanted to try to help the fire service, and really am blessed with where it has taken me and the opportunities it's given me. And I just love this. I love talking to people that are into making themselves better and every other person that they can contact better. So
and
that's about it.
Probably say excited about talking to other people too.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Someday I am going to find another word to use in that, but you know what? It is just the first thing that comes out of my mouth.
Well, and trust me, I don't mean to kind of call you out on that, but I just thought it was funny.
I call myself out on it.
I say the same thing, and I literally thought about this morning. How that pretty much every time I speak or every time I do a podcast or every time, whatever, that's kind of the first thing I have to fight coming out. But
Hmm.
trust me, it's legit. I am excited to be here. So thank you.
No, of course, I'm really happy to have you here, and just talking about, just, how you are so excited, to talk to people. It's one of those things. I was talking back with another person, and I can't remember who it was, can't remember what episode it was, but we were talking about corny phrases and corny things, and it's corny for a reason. Okay, excitement is corny, yes, and it probably gets overused, but it is the perfect word to encapsulate like everything I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, really, really happy to have you on. Been listening to your podcast for a while now, and it has helped me look at things from different perspectives for sure. And it was one of the few that actually got me a little bit excited and thinking, well, maybe I should do something to get a different perspective than other people too. And so thank you for starting yours, because it has helped me get through a few different little tough times in my fire service and life career too. Career, not career, life, whatever. I don't know.
Circumstances.
Thank
Whatever.
you. You will learn that I am very terrible at words sometimes, which is
All right.
funny because I love words. So,
Yeah.
oh man, sometimes I just don't quite know the right words to say. But
I
anywho,
appreciate that. Thank you.
um, so how did you get into the fire service first of all? That's somewhere I like to start with people just to kind of see how they found their way here.
I don't know. I completely fell into it. Before we started recording, we talked about how much we both believe in the whole, everything happens for a reason. I just happened to be, well, I was working in the pipeline construction, basically. I was working
Okay.
with my dad on boring machines, which they drill under the ground and pull pipe back. And I loved working with him, but I hated the job. We were out if it was 110, and we were out if it was 10 below. And I can deal with heat pretty well, but the cold, I can't take it. I hate it. But I knew that's not what I wanted to do, but I had no idea what that was. And that was my early 20s, out of college, and still didn't know what I was going to do. I was lucky enough to work with a couple of brothers who were firefighters around the metro area. And I honestly, that was 20 years ago. I don't remember what it was that kind of drew me to. I'm sure it was just them talking about the atmosphere, the firehouse atmosphere, the cool things that they get to do on calls. And that kind of started making me interested in that, career. And just so happened the department that I worked for was hiring a little while later, and I applied. I didn't know anything about firefighting. I didn't have any certifications. I wasn't an EMT. I had nothing. I walked in there with nothing but myself. And, there were somewhere around middle 900s, close to 1,000 people. And they ended up hiring, I believe, 12 or 13 out of that.
Jeez.
And somehow, me not having anything, I was lucky and blessed, whatever you want to call it, enough to just fall into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why I say I don't know how I'm here. A lot of people test and test and test, and I don't say it to brag, but it's crazy that I've taken one test, and that's where I'm at. I'm at the same department now, and so it's not a very glamorous story, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it started.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have to be very glamorous. It's just everyone comes from different walks of life, different circumstances with it, and like you said, it just kind of happened. And and I'm happy it happened, because look where you are now, going through stuff, and you're doing a lot of work with your own station, with your own crew and things with that. You are making an impact both locally and out of your area too. And it's interesting to see and to hear about the original story and where you came from, where you've made it
Yeah.
to. And I'm sure you weren't planning on any of that happening necessarily. So it's just crazy. Yeah, and yeah, some people, they test and test and they can never seem to make it in. And it's for some sort of reason,
Yeah.
whatever it is. There's either you haven't found the right department yet, or maybe firefighting isn't for you, or maybe the time's not right,
Yeah.
whether it be God or the universe or whatever it is you believe in. If you believe in anything, or just, life purpose, you know, it's not always the right time.
Yeah.
And there's some specific reason that you are being kept from getting it. But it is exciting to hear your, as you say, not so exciting and extraordinary beginning, because
Yeah.
that's where a lot of it starts.
Oh yeah. Well, I luckily am on a path that I didn't design, because if I designed it, there's no telling where I would be, and it would be nowhere near the best place for me to be. But looking at it right now, and I know there's a lot of firefighters out there that will say the same thing. I don't know what the heck I would be doing if it wasn't firefighting. I'm not, I love doing things. I love, building things with wood. I love doing things with animals. Things I'm sure there are something that I could find, but I'm not somebody that is super skilled in anything. I do a little bit of everything, and I'm great at nothing. But I I'm I feel like I'm a pretty good firefighter, and this is what I was made to be career wise. And so, whatever it was that drew me into it, I'm very thankful for that, because it's where I need to be for sure.
And that humbleness and I know it's genuine, because I've heard you talk a lot. I've seen you interact and stuff, and that humbleness is what keeps you learning and wanting to do better in the fire service, and I think that is great.
Yeah.
That is something we all need to strive for more, and just keep learning, and there's tons of opportunities out there. So
Oh yeah.
no, it's great. So let's kind of get started into some things. One thing I thought was interesting, and it was a topic I had written down, and it had stayed kind of in the back burner for a while, and I didn't know who to talk about it with. And when we were talking about getting you on, I was thinking this would be a great topic to talk about, because I feel like you've had some experience in this area, or just thoughts in this area in general, with choosing which hill to die on, right? Choosing your specific hills. And people have heard the term, or the phrase over and over, you can't choose every hill, you have to choose which hill you want to die on and stuff. So what does that actually mean for us in the fire service and as people in general? And how do we go about dealing with that? So do you have any initial thoughts on the subject?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have so many directions to go with it. I'm sitting here trying to file them away, and trying to make some sense of what is going through my mind. I think there are so many ways you can apply that to the fire service. One that just really jumps out at, and it's funny because when we talked about it yesterday over the phone, it didn't jump out at me, but as you're saying it right now, it jumps out very brightly at me, is the the goofy little stuff that we sometimes get hung up on. You
Mhm.
know, we're going to throw a fit about what color a t-shirt is that you can wear on a call, or what kind of hat you can wear, out in public. And then this is the stuff we get hung up on. Yet we got we have people and entire crews that don't know how to fold and put up your particular type of pre-connect, or your particular type of attack line. You know, that should be something that you can do blindfolded,
Mhm.
because it's something you have to know. You've got to know that. It's the most basic thing we can do. But there are so many people out there that is absolutely the truth. But they are wearing the appropriate, uniform, so they're good. That is, a particular area that we don't have to go down, but it's just funny that, that's another, place that you could head. One of them that really is for me kind of the most personal is just it's the levels of frustration that you kind of you incur, and you find every once in a while in your career.
Mhm.
For me, those frustrations kind of led me to the choice of, either I can continue to be upset, I can continue to be frustrated about things that I have no control over, and let it get to the point where I'm starting to send out hateful, stupid emails that basically are going to undermine and destroy my message, or I can find an avenue that is accepting of what I'm trying to do so that I can put that energy into something that's going to help somebody. And so that's kind of that's a big direction with what you just said in my life that I had to decide, that those things were not something I am willing to die on, because I know if I pushed it and died right there, air quotes, I I would be done. I wouldn't have a message to give. I wouldn't have a audience to give it to. So I had to decide, okay, that's not my fight. I need to find somewhere else to send that energy and that message. So that's kind of a, I don't know, maybe hopefully that answers your question,
Oh,
but
yeah,
in my head it answers your question.
yeah. No, just the way you're going with that. I love it. And I found myself on the track for that. I've found myself starting to get frustrated with one little thing. And then I get hung up on it. And then the next thing comes along and I'm still so frustrated. And it, like you said, it keeps building and building and building. And it's really hard to stop yourself before something happens, before something bad happens with that. And it's something I think a lot of people have to go through first before they really understand it. They have to let it go too far. I hope everybody out there listens to this and they can learn from at least my mistakes and other people's mistakes and not do that. But a lot of times it's just like when you're a teenager and growing up, you make a lot of stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to make the stupidest decisions to learn a lot. And it's tough. It is tough. It's tough to not let every little thing bug you and to stick true to the biggest things out there that actually mean something.
Yeah. Yeah. I can, and this is a conversation within my head that I have all the time. On my way to work, tell myself, we're going to have a good day. I don't care what goes on. I don't care what goofy little things that, we are dealing with or fighting, whatever else, we're still going to have a good day. I, I could tell myself that the whole hour and 40-minute drive to work and 5 minutes inside those doors, I'm already, faced with all of that reality that you just can't talk yourself out of it. You've got to purposefully avoid those things
Mhm.
as they come up every single time. And I'm like you said, I don't get me saying these things as somebody who has it figured out. I say these things because I fight them all the time. I cannot figure out a way to not fight them yet. Hopefully one day I will figure out a way to just it'll be done and I don't have to worry about it. But I continue to get irritated about stupid little stuff that I have no control over. I'm the person that does get irritated that you know that we can't just wear a regular t-shirt. We can't wear a certain style hat, or it doesn't make sense to me. If that's what the crews want and it looks professional and it's not hurting anybody, who gives a crap? I don't care.
Mhm.
But that's what some people just love to harp on, and that's what some people love to dig their heels in on. And so, if that's the case, and those people are the people that are making the decisions, I, it doesn't do me or my crew any good to get upset about it or waste any amount of time of my day, focusing on it. It doesn't. So, that's kind of something that I literally have to fight through every single day, because there's always something that wants to attack me kind of in that way.
Yeah, when you talk about, just losing energy from fighting it, it's something that, yeah, if you fight every little battle that comes, if you don't ever take a rest, if you don't ever just say okay and just deal with it and just you don't love it but let it pass you by and just deal with it, you're not going to be ready for the battles that actually matter. What if you have something good that needs to be there to better the crew for um life-saving strategies or things like that, like what if there is something you need to implement or means so much, but you're so wore out and people are sick of hearing from you and whatever it is, you're sick of dealing with yourself at that point from all the frustration within, and what you say doesn't have any any impact anymore. It reminds me of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Like we were just talking about yesterday when that came up. It's just you say it so much and you just complain so much that people don't care anymore. They don't listen to you. You're written off as the person that just is cranky about everything. You can't make them happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another struggle that I've had to live through and learn from. Even just in the last 4 years of being a station officer. And I think a lot of these things that I talk about, a lot of things that we're talking about right now, and anything that I post or all that really are concentrated within this, last 4 to 5 year period of my career, because getting into that role has really magnified a lot of these things for me. It's really kind of drawn out a lot of my, shortcomings and things like that. Really made me notice where some things are not okay. And so for me, the first couple years being a captain, that's who I was. And I, looking back on it now, it's stupid. I wish that it wasn't the case. It's almost embarrassing. But
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of things that I was so irritated with. I was constantly griping at my battalion chief. He would take some of my crew members. He would rotate some of my people out, or just a lot of stuff. And I have since had to go back and apologize to him, because even the move that put me at the station where I'm at right now, I was not happy. I was very irritated that I was getting moved, just literally 6 months after becoming a captain at a station. They're going to move me. Well, now I love being here. We only have 5 stations, but there's not a single other station that I want to be at than the one I'm at. And the one that I came from is one of the slowest stations we have. It's a great place. It's one of the newer ones. It's spread out. It's actually where our training facility is. So, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not the kind of person that wants to be at a slow place. And so, I love the crew that we had then, but the whole crew is gone. It's all rotated around. So I I I don't know. I don't know how I would feel right now if I was still there. But thankfully, I'm not. I have been brought somewhere else. And so, I had to literally tell him, I know that I was, crappy to you about some of these things, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be, but in the moment it was a big deal, and now I know that it's not. And so, yeah, that's again, that's something that I continually have to just take a step back and look at, what's going on. Am I doing something for the right reason, but really not in the right way? There's 3 questions I love to compare things to. Are you doing the right thing? Are you doing it for the right reasons? And are you doing it in the right way? There's a lot of times where 2 of those 3 are solid yeses, but it's that third no that freaking screws the whole situation up. And you got to stop.
A
It's
lot of us
just
can't see it in
one
the
no.
moment either.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And so, again, it's lots of learning moments. And going back to kind of my intro, that's another big reason that I'm doing the stuff I'm doing, is because, like you said, kind of shortly, I want other people to learn from my mistakes so that they don't have to do the same thing. So they don't have to learn those same life lessons through their, you know, living choices or their, you know, mistakes of making it. They can learn from me so that they don't have to do it. And that's one of the big things that I really try to focus on, is sharing as much as I can, not the good stuff. I like to share some good stuff, but not only the good stuff, but the bad stuff too, the goofy stuff, the embarrassing stuff, and hopefully that adds some value to somebody here and there.
Well, people need to hear more of the bad stuff and the embarrassing stuff, because I know a lot of times there have been plenty of times I felt alone in that. That's like, oh, I'm the only one who screwed up, until I
Yep.
call one of my friends in the fire service and they're like, oh no, that's happened to me 3 times.
Yep.
What?
Oh yeah.
Like, what? But no one ever talks about it. And so it's just the opening up our, and I think the fire service culture in general is starting to see that. They're starting to see that we need this gross, mudgy stuff coming up. We need to talk about the stuff to make it better, to make it normal that people go through it and figure out how to not go through it anymore. From that. And like you were saying earlier, how, being embarrassed by mistakes you made, I I think it's something that just about every single person, I don't know if I've met a person out there who hasn't done something stupid or embarrassing earlier on in their fire service career. And even if it's not earlier on, it may have just happened, but they've probably grown from it since then.
Yeah, I was gonna say early on, you can throw that out the window because I've been on over
Mhm.
19 years and it happens all the time. So
Mhm.
early on, yes, it did happen, but that it's not stopped since. So at least for me.
Yeah. I hear you there with that. Oh, so with finding your hills to die on, your quote unquote non-negotiables and stuff, do you have any ways that you tend to narrow down what your non-negotiables are, what you will fight hard for? Do those come from values? Do those come from other struggles you've gone through? Do you have any that you'd be willing to share for some of your non-negotiables, for some of that, or stuff that you do fight for?
Yeah, I think it all comes back to your either it they seem to be interchangeable, but your mission or your vision,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it. Uh, that for me is it's been a really big deal. That's something that I never really knew much about early on. It kind of came into play and started to grow and organize itself as I was becoming a formal leader when I finally kind of figured that out. But it's what drives really everything right now. The mission that we operate under as our crew is kind of it drives who we are. It drives the culture, and that's kind of what I would say is the blueprint of what is okay. We try very hard to not care about anybody else what's
Mhm.
going on. It is frustrating when you come in the firehouse and crap is nasty, trucks are not fueled again, what all that stuff. You could go on, and again, you could ruin a whole day griping about that stuff. But I really tried to get us to the mindset of, okay, yeah, we're going to be irritated with it, but then we're just going to go do whatever needs to be done because we need to do it anyway.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter what other crews are doing. It doesn't matter what other crews aren't doing. We're we're going to do what we feel is necessary to do to get us where we need to be to be successful. And so that I kind of put a post basically saying that same thing a little while back is it doesn't matter to me that other people look at me as far as just who I am. Like I've heard it over and over again. Well, that guy, he makes them train all the time and this and that. I guarantee you there is not another crew on my department I would put it against a lot of other crews anywhere else that have more fun than we do.
Mhm.
We are together just and in close quarters all day long. Not because we have to be. We have a pretty small station, but we still don't have to be together all day. There are very few other crews that I have witnessed that are together all the time. There's always somebody that kind of is straggling around or finding a hiding spot or whatever. We are together all the time because we want to be, because we enjoy being together, and that's who I want to be as a crew. That's the people I want to work with. I
Mhm.
would have a hard time working with people that want to hide and don't want to be part of the team. But yeah, it's just funny because that's who we are, literally. But people that don't know how things are going, they just see the posts or they just know that I have a podcast, whatever. They come up with their own conclusions. But really, what we're doing, it doesn't matter. What we're doing is something we believe in, and it's really starting to create a great culture that I'm so proud of. And that's kind of, ah, again, halfway, that my answer to that of it.
Yeah.
But
It reminds me. So, well, I just got done with the Les Lukert conference in Nebraska here, and Corley Moore was there with his 9 L's of leadership class. And it reminds me of one of the points he made and stuff like that is don't make up stories about other people if you don't actually know. Stop putting that story together in your head of why they're doing what they're doing if you don't actually know it. First of all, go ask them if you're really curious. I'm sure you wouldn't mind if people were asking you, why are you doing this or something like that, just like
yeah,
most of us out there, like we're willing to talk, we're willing to share. Stop making up stories and just come learn, come enjoy, come figure out what's going on through my brain.
oh
But
yeah,
it reminded me a lot of that one because that I've done it. I know other people have done it too. You start
oh yeah,
thinking worst case scenario, or this is why they're thinking what they're thinking, and you have no idea.
yeah.
So I think that's all I have on that one. Do you have anything else to add on?
No, I mean that's kind of sums it up. I know we're trying to, trying to keep this part of the stuff short. So that's, I think a
Okay,
pretty good bow tie around it for the most part.
perfect. Just it. I mean, just going into just a touch on, doing things in our own time for stuff. Just like everything else we've been talking about, how you were saying you don't pay attention to what other crews are doing. It's okay. How we kind of fell into the fire service or however that works, it's just people do things on their own timeline. And it's crazy because everyone thinks there's an A to B to C way of doing something. You have to do it this way. You start talking. That's one of the reasons why I love asking people how they got into the fire service, because you start seeing there's so many different answers. There's no
Yeah,
one right way of doing this.
yeah, yeah, for
It's
sure.
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, and no, again, kind of going back to that, kind of tying both of them together. You know, I know that there are some high performing crews out there. There, absolutely. We have some high performing crews. At I would say a smaller department. We have 120 something suppression personnel. So big to some, small to others. It's kind of in the middle of the road, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
we've got some great crews. They do things completely different. I don't I don't have the need to critique how they do things. I see the result. I see that they have their stuff together. I see that they are doing things at a high level. I see that they're getting along great. They enjoy going to work together. That's all I care about. And really it doesn't, it's none of my business. I don't work there, so why should I even care? But that's really the results are what I'm looking at. I know really quick, and really anybody can just look at a crew and figure out some basic things, figure out if they get along, figure out if they, kind of have a grasp of what's going on. Anything really basic you could pick out pretty quick. And so all of the inner workings of what made that possible, yeah, you could put that in so many different packages, and that's great, because really as a leader, you've got to figure that out, because the more people you have underneath you, the more different ways you're going to have to teach and instruct and connect with somebody, because we're all different.
Mm-hmm.
And if I've got 4 other people, so it's not too bad. We've got some stations that there's 12, 14 people. That's a lot of people to be concerned with how I'm trying to reach that person, how I'm trying to connect with them, how I'm trying to inspire them. And so it gets to be, pretty big job to really reach all those people. So, yeah, it's going to look different all the time. All the different crews that if they're good or they're bad, whatever, different people have different ways of leading, but everybody has a different way of learning and getting motivated and all that. So it's just it's an interesting mix. That's something else I've had to learn, as a formal leader, is my way doesn't work. If I want to lead a crew the way that I want to lead them just 100%, I'm going to fail miserably because, maybe I'll reach a couple, maybe I'll reach half, but there's going to be some people that I'm going to turn off right away, and I will never get them back if I don't find ways to kind of be flexible enough to get in their arena of what makes them comfortable.
That is nice to hear because that is something I fully believe in. There's nothing saying you can't have your way of doing things, but you need to be flexible enough with it to still mold around other people and still have that spark that makes you be as good as of a captain or a leader as you are.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of a lot of different things. So everything you're just talking about, my brain is going 1,000 different directions. But it reminds me of my husband cooking. Drives me nuts sometimes because he does not do things the way I would. Oh, it drives me up a wall. It's like, okay, it's something as stupid as he's cutting the peppers a certain way. Wait, that's not the way I would do it. Why? Where? First of all, where'd you learn that, or how'd you come up with that? Because that is not right. But by the end, the supper comes out cooked, and guess what? It tastes the same. It's fine. It's okay if he does things differently. I just have to sit back and trust him. He's got to be okay to cook, which is scary sometimes because he can grill. Cooking on the stove, he's getting better, so he's starting to learn that more, I think, at the station. So that's good. Yeah. But no, when it comes to different crews and working differently, there's, like you said before, there's so many different personalities out there, and there's so many different ways to get something done. And your crew isn't going to fit everybody else perfectly. They need their own space too. And it's interesting how these crews tend to, definitely by putting in work, but tend to attract the people that fit into them best. And so, yeah, your crew might not be right for this one person, but they're going to find another crew that works really well for them. And they're going to do really hard, good work with them doing it their way. And it's cool to see that. And it's cool to see departments where that culture is flourishing.
Yeah. And for me, if you don't like what we are doing, if you don't like the atmosphere that we're building, I don't want you there just as much as you don't want to be there. I don't want somebody there that it's not what they want. I want people that fit in. And no, I don't. When I say that, I'm not trying to say that I want everybody to fit a certain mold.
Mm-hmm.
I just want everybody that I'm working with to appreciate and buy into the vision and the culture that we've created, because that's what's going to continue us in the right direction. If we get a person or two that completely hates how we operate, it's going to bog down everything, and it has. We have experienced that before, and it's very hard to overcome that, even if it's just one person. And so that's what kind of makes me say that I'm okay. I don't take it personal, and I've told my crew members several times over the past couple of years this very thing. I If you don't like being here, let me know. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I would rather you let me know so that I can kind of figure out a way to help you get somewhere else, so that we can get somebody else in that might want it better. And
Mm-hmm.
that I don't I that's the 100% truth. I don't care if somebody wants to go somewhere else. I just want people that want to be where we're at. And so, you know, that's kind of a big deal to me. If you don't want to be somewhere, not that, you have 100% control over where you're at, but if it's something that you just truly don't like the culture, you don't like where they're headed, whatever else, it's time to find something else, somewhere else to go, that either good or bad, whatever, that you're going to fit in better, because hopefully that's going to get more out of you. You're going to get more productive if you like being where you're at. And so that's kind of the basis of that. I want people that want to be where we're at. And so that, yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Well, exactly. And as you're saying it before, we as humans, we're personal people. We take things personally. It's just who we are, and good, bad, indifferent, however you see it, the way culture has been going in life, in the world, we are getting more personal with things. We're taking things more personally. So things that are said or happen or whatever, we internalize that. And people take it so personally of, hey, you shouldn't be on here because you're not really shouldn't. You should find somewhere better for you and stuff like that. And I do take it personally, but hearing you talk, you don't mean it personally. No one means it that they hate you or they don't want you around. It's just, where are you actually going to thrive? Try to separate the personal from the where is best for you, and just, I don't know, just own up to it and go find where you will actually be better.
Yeah.
So
I take it more personally if somebody doesn't want to be on my crew or doesn't want to work for me and refuses to admit that. I if and I've straight up asked people before, do you want to be here? And I don't do it in a hateful way. I do it in a way that I'm legitimately wondering if you even want to be here, because if you don't, then let's fix that for everybody. So yeah,
and that can be
absolutely.
your friends too. I mean, you could have people that you're good with or other firefighters you work beside, and they come in under you in a position or whatever it is, and they may not like that.
Yep.
And it's just one of those times that it's hard for a lot of people, including myself at times, to separate both sides of things, to like, okay, I don't have to want to be here, but I can still want to be your friend and hang out with you after shift's over or something.
Yeah, and a lot of what I've said with this topic has been maybe perceived as negative, if you're somebody that isn't performing to standard, whatever else. But you could have a positive side of it too. Like I said, I've been at this particular station for probably about 3.5 years. Uh, Everybody has basically kind of rotated out from that original crew, except for one guy, my driver. And, I would very quickly say one of my best friends, one of my biggest mentors, whatever you want to label somebody, I would give it to him in a good way. And I can honestly see a point coming, as much as I hate to say it or think it, that he might need to go somewhere else, because being with a leader for any amount of time, maybe you've kind of reached that lid. Maybe you have kind of gotten about everything you can get from that leader, and maybe it's a good thing to go somewhere else, to find some different leadership to work under, to get some more growth out of. And so, it's not always about, I think everything that I mentioned earlier kind of sounded like it was me in control, or me being the chooser of all of that, but it's not. There could be crew members that aren't getting what they need from me. So it works. It's a 360 thing. It can work all the way around. So
That is definitely an interesting way of looking at it. I like that. I don't think I've ever heard of that way very much, if at all. Of Yeah, you may have taught them all that I mean, like, it's the corny, like, I've taught you everything, whatever. Like,
yeah,
like from a movie or something like that. It's all that I know and all that stuff.
pupil,
But
pupil
there is
becomes
that
the
point.
teacher.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. There is that point. Yes. And people need other things. And yes, you can thrive under one leader, but to be, I don't know, to grow yourself as a person and as a firefighter and as just one of the workers and things like that, you need to be able to do that under different leaders too, to be able to grow. And that will make you in turn a good leader when you get to that point.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to, even if you don't like it, even if you don't agree with the next leader you're under, it's going to give you a different perspective and learn how to deal with more situations better.
Yeah.
So that is a really cool way of looking at it.
It is just kind of I wanted to mention that because I hate when I start talking and I start realizing, well, that what I'm saying sounds absolutely ego driven and all that. There are lots of other directions and perspectives to take, from that.
Oh, awesome. Is there anything else with these sections that you'd like to touch on, or any other last closing thoughts on it?
No, I think kind of at the base of everything we talked about is just growth. And that's another big thing. It's one of the, I don't know what you want to call it, the pillars or the corners, whatever of our mission is pursuing daily growth. We want to get better at something every day. And again, I've said it several times, that has been a growing process just to learn what that means. Oh, I kind of had the realization not very long ago that we can grow in ways and learn and have good days without really doing anything. We've had days where we don't train. I'm not going to stand up here on the platform of saying we do it every single day. I hope that we do. I hope that we can get some type of good physical training in every day. But there's some days where we just have an online class that we get done, or we just watch a video or something like that. We still learn. It's still a good day. But even further than that, and this is what I've had to learn, we've had days where we didn't do anything. We didn't even sit down and do anything over a computer or a TV. But what we did do is we got out and we did an activity together as a group and had a great time. And we built camaraderie and we had a great day. And that's a good thing. That's a win. That's something that I need to look at as a positive day. And kind of going back to some other things I said, a good day, a growing day, whatever you want to say of that day, is not only, it doesn't only happen if it fits my mold. There are lots of ways for those things to happen, and it might not look exactly like I think it should, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. And so, just continuing to find those good things every day, find the growth every day, challenge each other every day. If you are with one person at your firehouse that's great, that's into it, you're you're a lot better off than some people. Take advantage of that. If you're with a whole group of people that are into it and that enjoy growing and learn together, man, you don't know how great you have it. Take advantage of those times because it won't last forever. It will not last forever. And if you don't take advantage of those opportunities, you're going to find yourself with a completely different crew that doesn't want to do anything. And all you're going to think about is, man, I wish that I can go back and do what we used to do. And so just take advantage of what you have, take advantage of the opportunities and the time you have with each other, and do the best to get some good out of each day. That's, I'll kind of leave it at that. That's
So
about the
I
best I
got
can
one
sum
more.
it up.
I got one more
Yeah.
touch on because you keep making my brain run here. But talking about the, just the rest days and things like that. I mean, there's been so much on social media within the last couple of years of self-care, right? Like especially as soon as COVID hit, it was
Oh,
self-care,
yeah.
self-care, self-care. And you know what? Our crews and the fire service have a version of self-care too. It's, usually when you hear self-care, it tends to be, go do something by yourself, or like for women tends to be what, hot bubble bath is what everyone says, or massage or something, and, go spend time outdoors, go for a walk, stuff like that. Yeah. Your station life needs that too. Your crew life needs that too. It can't, I mean, you can work hard every single day and keep it going, but you will get wore out. You have to have those days where you just relax, sit back, do something together. It's an intentional, mindful rest day. You're actually doing something that builds you in a different way than just training all the time.
Yeah.
And shouldn't be done every day, obviously, but I think it should be done more often than what we do it. Because it helps bond you in a different way than what you're used to, not just working. You're becoming better friends in general because of it. And when you start molding that together, you start seeing, what makes people tick. And you will, as being firefighters and at the station all the time, you see what makes it tick. But getting on that different level with them, more of a personal level, will just help elevate you more. And you can learn you can relax with each other and stuff even better than what you already had been. So yeah, the mindful rest days, the quote unquote self-care days, however you want to call it. And like you said, yeah, it might not look exactly like how you wanted, but it'll still be good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So we are moving on to the next section, the family firefighter survival section. So for those of you who have not heard of this before, have not been a listener of the podcast, this is the portion where we get more into our personal lives. Yes, we love the station. And we love talking about quote unquote fire talk, right? Like I love that. But this is something different for us. Something that not a lot of us tend to talk about is our family lives. So what does our family look like? How do we make things work between the quote unquote job and family time? And I don't care if you're a career volunteer, you still have the separation between the two a lot and struggles with it. So what struggles we've had with the balance of the two, or other factors that have come into our lives, and ways we can make it better. Basically, my goal with this section of the podcast, every guest episode, is to see what people do, see what works, what doesn't work, get us all realizing that it's normal to have problems and ways we've worked on that, and just helping us to have the best basis possible to be able to have a good life, full out life, not just fire life and home life, but good life overall. So are you ready to get into this, Jeremy?
Oh yeah, let's go.
Perfect. Okay, so quick rundown again. I know you already mentioned a little bit about your family, but just a quick rundown of what your family looks like.
Yes. So back in 2013, I met my wife. Actually met her online. Everybody likes to kind of chuckle at that when they hear it. A dating app. She lived in Tulsa. I lived in Oklahoma City area, so a little bit of difference or distance between us, but not too bad. I fell in love with how beautiful she was the first picture I saw, and lucky enough, she started talking with me, and we actually got to meet and go through a couple dates not long after that, and I didn't want anything else after kind of getting to know her. I knew that this was somebody that I wanted to be with, and luckily she put up with me to kind of make that happen over time. We So I guess before that, and this is going to be a jumbled mess, I'm sure, because there's
Oh,
lots before it that we'll get into too, but I'm just talking
yeah.
current life. But I have two biological kids, a son and a daughter. When we got together, I also had two foster kids, two boys, two brothers actually. And so single dad of four. It was a single mom of four. She had a daughter and three sons. And so when we made the decision to move in together, it was crazy. It was absolutely, there's no way that I would have ever been prepared for that moment, and I was absolutely not prepared for that moment. Joining, really realistically, joining three different families together under one roof. uh yeah, we had been dating for around a year or so when it happened, but still pretty new with each other. There's just so much going on. My oldest was 8, I believe, and she had teenagers, which for me just blew my mind. I had no idea how to handle teenagers, and I failed miserably. But anyway, uh, so when we got together, we had 8 kids. We ended up adopting one of the brothers. Luckily enough, the other brother got adopted in the town that I work for, and so we still get to get him quite a bit. I'll pick him up after work and keep him for sometimes a day, sometimes a week. Bring him up to the farm, and we love getting to hang out with him, especially his brother. His brother loves him to death. We all love him to death. He's a mess, but it's just a situation that we are very thankful for, because there's not a lot of families that foster kids that when they adopt out other families are still allowing you to be in their lives. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a great situation. And so a couple of our kids have gotten old enough to where they moved out, so we don't have everybody in the house now. Actually, we've got three that have moved out. and one of them, her youngest son, is still kind of back and forth with his dad. So realistically, we only have three kids in the house, sometimes four at the most, which is a drastic kind of turn from what we started out. We're having to learn how to cook smaller meals now, which is funny because we still have four kids. But my wife's a nurse. She works in she manages a dialysis clinic in Tulsa. She's been doing that for I think around 5 years now. So she really enjoys that. She just got promoted to that director spot. So I think she's a little nervous. She's trying to kind of figure it out, but it's been a really cool thing because it's given us something else to connect with. I'm in a formal leadership role. She's been in a formal leadership role now for a little bit, and so we have something else to talk about. We have that leadership kind of arena to dive into, so that we're not just stuck talking about the kids or whatever else. It gives us an out to get outside of the norm and really kind of connect together. So that's kind of the quickest version, and you can dive into whatever else from there. But that's kind of the home life situation right now.
Yeah. So first thing I'm wondering, so so your job, are you 24-hour shifts or how does that work for you?
Yes, we have the whole schedule that's on off on off on 4 days off. I don't know what you call it.
I've
It's
heard
it's
them called three
goofy.
fours.
Yeah,
So
I don't
yeah.
know. So
Something
it's
like
it
that.
kind of it kind of sucks because on those on off days I'm back and forth every day. But having that 4 days off is always it's great. And so I really enjoy those times to be able to be home and have a little bit of consistency before you got to go back. So that's how we do it.
So her job then is, does she work just daytime with that leadership or does she do shift work as well? Or how does that work for her?
No, it's kind of varied. She's pretty flexible at this point where she's at. She'll she'll go in the mornings pretty early and be home around 3 or 4. So usually, give or take, if somebody calls in and they're short, she'll have to get on the floor and do some work, or she might get called here and there for some issues happening once she's home, to deal with. But for the most part, it's just straight 5 days a week during the day.
Okay. So I guess now my next question, so once I've kind of figured those out, how does that usually work together? Does it work pretty easily and seamlessly since you guys had been doing your own thing separately for a little bit or um
You talking about just kind of overall or
oh yeah,
just with
yeah,
like
just
recent?
sorry.
No, no, that's fine.
Yeah, so just
It's
overall, like how, I mean, does that work for you really well? Are there, is it mostly positive? Is there some struggles with it or how does it
Oh yeah, there's
what do you
absolutely
think?
some struggles with it because you know the the inconsistency of my schedule alone it
Mhm.
makes it a mess because there's a time frame, a decent chunk of time where I'll be home consistently, then a decent chunk of time that you don't know, I'm on off, I'm back and forth. So just depending on whatever day, whatever situation comes up lands on, if I'm home, then perfect, somebody's home. But and it's gotten better than it used. She used to be in a acute dialysis, which is at the hospitals, and which was totally up in the air. I mean, she could go
Uh,
in early in the morning and she could be working till 11 o'clock, 12, 1 in the morning. And so that was very hard to kind of keep a grasp on because it was just so off the wall. Now that she's more consistent, and we've done it for 8 years now. We got to, and also on top of that, we've lost some kids out of the house, so
mhm.
definitely able to kind of control things a little bit better. Obviously, when we schedule appointments, we're pulling up calendars, trying to figure out who's home and all that. So kind of pre-planning, which is I will admit right off the bat is definitely her area. I am awful at scheduling and keeping track of things. She has done a great job of that, but making sure that things lay out the best, as good as we can, kind of puts us in that situation. We don't haven't had a lot of kids play sports, but when we do, that's always an issue.
Hmm.
You have games or practices that nobody's here, and we at times we haven't really had anybody around that we either know or that are available. We don't have a lot of family that are just super close, and so yeah, we've definitely had times where we've just had to figure it out and just make the best of it. But it luckily enough, it's kind of, for the most part, it's worked itself out
Yeah.
when we needed it to.
That is actually, that was going to be one of my next questions is, did you have any family or any close friends or anyone that was able to help with that? Because the people who have that, um we moved closer back to family, which is nice because we in the future will hopefully have something like that, but not everybody does. And it's so nice for the families that do, but for the families that don't, there is extra juggling around you have to do. Or I mean, I can't even imagine trying to find a babysitter or daycare or something like that for younger kids that would work with, firefighting and first responder type schedules.
Yeah, no, and it's so, like I said, when we got together, when we met, I was in Oklahoma City. That's where my family basically is. Most of them. Uh, she was from Tulsa. She's only got one sister, and both her sister's family and her parents live in the Tulsa area. So right now we're still probably 20-25 minutes away from them. So
Mhm.
if we need somebody, like we try to have date nights pretty regularly. She loves going to concerts, so we try to go to quite a few concerts, and on those nights, hopefully we can have somebody watch the kids so that we don't have to worry about coming back a certain time or even just getting in a hotel and staying. And it's nice to have them for that, even though there's not a lot of choices, just a couple. Our oldest daughter has actually done a lot for us now too. Now that she's old enough to kind of be settled in and comfortable with it, she's done a lot to help us on those nights. So that's nice.
That's awesome.
It was, it was, and it's still kind of. I've never really regretted moving. I love what it has given to us, especially now that we're in the country and where we're at. I won't regret that, even if it's a long drive for me to go to work. The only thing that I have that I kind of I don't say it's a regret, but the only negative out of it is moving away from my family.
Hmm.
We were very close. We still are, close. We were very close, spending a lot of time together. So that was kind of a hard adjustment, and it's definitely been hard on my mom for sure with kind of that move. So if it's an extended thing where we're gone for a couple of days or whatever, we still have that option of kind of letting them go to my sister's or letting them go to my mom's for a little bit. So that's still an option, but not really a quick, easy option.
Yeah.
But back when I was home alone with four kids and working as a full-time firefighter, you can't do that without having help.
Yeah, and that
So
that was going to be the next part I wanted to get into was especially so I grew up my family did foster care and we always had tons of kids in the house. Well, there were four of us growing up and then usually there was at least two if not four foster kids too.
yep,
So a very big family and it was amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was such a good experience. We got to know a bunch of different people and a lot of the kids that my parents were helping to foster, we still know to this day.
yep.
And it's great. It's fantastic. But how does that work with the firefighter schedule if you're the single dad type? I'm very curious about that specifically, but especially, yeah, just having the four kids together. How does that work, or how did that work for you?
It, it only works when you have help. I will say that.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I had some good help. Like I said, my mom or my parents were pretty close, so they did a little bit of helping. I found a great family in the town I work in that just wanted to do something good for somebody, and so somehow I got connected with them, and they watched my two kids earlier on in life. back when I was a single parent of two. Just to sit down and lay out my story, I think would take several weeks of straight recording. But they helped a lot back, when it was all of us, when it was me and the four. I got to know the director of the daycare I used, and her family is actually the family that adopted our other foster son, and was close with them. They helped a lot with all four of them when it was just me and them. And like that's the only way to describe it. If you don't have a lot of help, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do that by yourself. Be a firefighter at least. If you've got a normal job, and are able to pay for daycare, I'm sure you can make that work. But being on for 24 hours, that doesn't happen.
Mhm.
So yeah, just by a lot of blessings, I was given a lot of people in my life that helped out and made it work.
I don't even know, are there daycares out there that do 24 hours like that, or?
There are daycares that are open for 24 hours, but even the ones that are open for 24 hours, you can only keep kids for a certain amount of time. And so you're
Hmm.
still restricted in that way,
Okay.
or at least as much as
Unless,
I know.
yeah, unless it's changed or however that is, or
Yeah.
unless something else popped up yet. But no, it's interesting because yeah, it's something that's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Of like, what if you don't have anybody else or anything? How do you make
Yeah.
that work? And I would only assume like you'd have to hire a nanny or something for it, and that can get expensive too.
Oh
And
yeah.
oh man, so
Yep.
what got so you had your two kids, your biological kids. What made you go into foster care? How did you start thinking about it, or think that you could do it, or all this stuff? I want to go through your brain.
Uh, well, it my answer will mirror my answer of how I'm a firefighter.
Okay.
We fell into it. It actually was nothing that was planned. Absolutely not. So my ex-wife at the time, she was a assistant at the elementary school that my kids were going to, just helping students and helping special needs students, basically. So each special needs student has an assistant that goes around with them. And so it just so happened to the kid that she was helping, she got close with. She really, kind of became, I don't know, she fell in love, I guess, for lack of better terms, with this kid. He's a great
Mhm.
kid. And she started talking about him, bringing some stories home, talking about kind of the home life situation of this kid, and it was heartbreaking. Some of the things that were going on, and some of the things that even just being at school, her seeing. And so, just out of, I don't know what you want to call it, just it was the way that things happened. She got word that they were going to get taken away and put into a shelter. And so she came home, basically, I think it was a Monday, and started talking with me about, hey, he's going to get taken away. He's going to get put in a shelter. I don't remember the conversation, but basically, is there anything we can do to bring him in to our house? Basically, is the sum up of that conversation.
Mhm.
And you know, like I said, it was a Monday when that happened, and literally on either a Wednesday or a Thursday, he was at our house,
Oh, geez,
which
that was quick.
doesn't happen.
No,
That
it doesn't.
doesn't happen because it's such a strict process to go through, unless you're family. And so I honestly don't know how
It
how it
was
all
meant to
played
happen
out.
for some reason.
It
Yeah.
it just happened. And so we get, Trevor is his name. We got Trevor, and the social worker is there, at the time that the transition was being made, and she says, he's got a younger brother. He's 9, 10 months old. We don't have anywhere that we can take him right now. Do you mind having him just for a week? And of course, okay, here we go. We just started talking about having any kids a couple days ago,
Hmm.
and now we're talking about bringing in an infant, in addition to, everything else we got going on. And so it was like, okay, I we can keep him for a weekend. And here we are, I don't even know. I think it's been 10 years. Well, he'll be 11 in March. And so we're right at 10 years and they've still not picked him up yet. My wife still jokes about, is this the weekend that they're going to come get him? Because, but I fell in love with him. That weekend thing, I'm sure the social worker knew that that's a good way to get in somewhere, is just tell them it's for a weekend. And but
Yeah, that is exactly how my family got into it. Hey, just 1 week. Okay. And then we kept the kids for a few years and it was fun. We loved it. We loved every minute of it, but that's how it usually starts.
yeah, and that's the story. It's still, looking back on it, I don't know how they allowed it to happen, because they're the two boys are Chickasaw Indian too. So on top of the DHS stuff, all that crap you got to deal with, we had an additional weight of tribal stuff on
Huh.
all that. So it was a mess. The whole process, there was always something to fight through, or something to, something going on. So, but it was amazing, because it brought them into our lives, even though it was not a planned event, and but that's how it happened.
Oh, that is crazy. So when it comes to, especially so many kids in the house, and at one point a lot of kids in the house at one time, how did you keep yourself sane? And first of all, but how did you interact with the family when you were home, or how did you keep that connection alive and stuff with firefighting and with the 24-hour shifts and they had to do quite often?
Uh, Not well. I will say that I think that's the quickest, most effective way to describe it, and that's probably even sugarcoating it. I would say it's probably way less than not well. I struggled. I was a terrible stepdad. I will say that very honestly. My wife has done a much better job of just kind of working into that role, and taking on those responsibilities. It's such a man, our situation is so dramatically diverse. Like I said, her kids were older, my kids are younger. Her kids are very, self kind of, they're okay in the room all the time, kind of on their own. My kids love to be out and hang out like me. I want them to be out kind of hanging out with us. So it's so dramatic, kind of the difference. And you know there's a big learning curve with both of them. My wife is more of that kind of hanging out by herself type person. She needs some alone time. And so it was a drastic change to have these kids that were out and just into everything all the time. For me, I struggled with kids that were never around. They were around, but I never saw them. And so for both of us, it was a struggle in our own ways, completely different ways, but in our own way, we struggled with kind of how to deal with these new kids that we are now parents of. And so, like I said, she's done a much better job. I if I don't catch myself, I start thinking, well, it was easier because my kids were younger, and they're more willing to open up to somebody new. Her kids were older and teenagers, and it was just hard to break that shell. But I know it's just a kind of a lie that I could tell myself to make it sound better.
Yeah.
I had every opportunity to make better relationships with them than I did. Uh, to be honest, it was probably just a couple years ago when I finally figured out that I need to make amends for what I did as a new stepdad. I wouldn't say that I was just intentionally bad, but I never really forced myself to be uncomfortable and go into their area to make those relationships. And so, I've definitely tried over the past couple of years to kind of correct that some, reach out to the older three, the younger one's still with us, but reach out to the older three and apologize for, being like that, for kind of the person I was, because I didn't I didn't do what I should have done. I didn't create a relationship like I should have. I didn't. We were dealing with a lot of stuff on top of all just taking our family and what we had going on.
Hmm.
That's a lot. But then you add a whole huge layer on top of that of dealing with some ex-wife situations, some legal custody fee battles and all that on top of all that. It was, gosh, to be honest, I don't know how we made it. I don't know how are still together right now. I know how we did, because we were able to look through it and know that we love each other. We know we're here for each other. But to truly look at what we have been through in those 8 years now, it's amazing. It truly is amazing to see what we have been through. But yeah, I was not a good foster or stepdad. I really struggled with that. I feel bad for that, probably worse than any other thing that I can look back on right now, because I know I should have done better. And so the only thing I can do now is try to make up for it. And thankfully, I think that a lot of that has been patched up. I feel like I actually the older boys hugged me a lot. When they say bye, which I would have never ever guessed that would have ever happened several years ago.
Hmm.
And they don't really even do that to anybody. I mean, of course they're grandparents and things like that, but that's just not who they are. But for them to do that to me, man, it was amazing. The first time that it happened, it was amazing. Our oldest daughter sent me a text on I think it was my birthday, or it might have been Father's Day last year, that I it is and it's funny because she changed her number a little bit before that. I didn't have her number saved, so I got this message from somebody that was like a very personal message, talking about, and how
Like,
I showed it to my wife. I'm like, "Do you know who this is?" She's like, "Oh yeah, that's Jay." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Well, I would have never guessed it was her, because the words that she said is like, she won't say anything like that to me. But man, what that meant to me, seeing that in person, or just seeing that, is crazy. I will never be able to uh, put words into how that made me feel, seeing those words come from her. And so it's been a great kind of a vindication. I don't know if that's the right word, but being able to kind of correct some of those mistakes now, and hopefully kind of lay the groundwork for some great years to come with them, has been amazing. It's been awesome, and it's been something that I needed to do. I had to do that. I had to make that right, because I'm the one that put us in that situation. So
hmm.
it's been nice.
No, that is amazing to hear, and I'm so happy for you hearing that too. It's just, it's something, I don't know. It's something that a lot of us hope for if we have those situations of our own. And a lot of times we don't know how to go about it. Like you were saying, you didn't know how to make it better. You should have done better, but at the time you're all like, well, I'm doing what I'm doing and why isn't this working? And that's where a lot of us get stuck, is in that cycle of I don't know what to do. This is not working and stuff like that, but we're always doing things our own way of how we like things done. And it kind of pulls me back to like before this section when we were talking about all of the crew life stuff too, is just you have to get out of your shell and you have to put yourself into other people's shoes and what they're used to and what they want and how you're going to connect with them best. And just to see how, life lessons work both ways in all areas of life, and just seeing it transfer straight over, from family life into fire and vice versa. It's not rocket science. It's not hard. It's stuff we're already learning, stuff we're already trying. For some reason, we put such a block in our brains between the two, which at times it does need to be there to keep things straight and to make our, lives run a little smoother. But I mean, family is family, whether it be at the firehouse or in your own house. And
Yeah.
it's nice to hear that, first of all, you recognize that, something was wrong, and that, things are going well and you're able to work on it. So
No, and I'll say, you said it's not rocket science, and it's not. It's basic stuff. It's treating people right. It's the golden rule. Are you treating people the way you want to treat people? That you could sum up every leadership book basically by really at the heart of it, that right there.
mhm.
If you're treating people the way you want to be treated, things are going to be pretty good. Of course, you want to add in a lot of things on top of that, but if you have that underneath, man, you're doing good. But I will say, you said something about it's not hard. I think it is. I think it is very hard, because to do the right thing, it's not easy. It's not easy to write a note to a kid that you basically, for lack of better terms, they ignored for several years, that you should have been raising as your own, apologizing for that, and asking for forgiveness, and telling them how much you want to make that right. That's not easy. It's not easy to do some of the, you know take responsibility for something you screw up at work. But those are the things that are going to create the best atmospheres in your life. It doesn't matter where it is. And that's, going off of kind of where we're kind of talking right now. That's the stuff I really love to talk about on my post and my podcast, are things that not only are critical at the firehouse, that are not only good to really dig into at that level career wise, but are also stuff you can bring home and really make yourself better at home, a better parent, a better spouse, on top of being a better firefighter at work. Those are the things I really love to hold on to and to share, is and that's why I want to make the fire service better. But really what I want at the heart of everything I do is to help us all become better people. That's it. Better people means that we're better everywhere. Wherever we're at, whatever we're doing, we're better because of whatever we've experienced. And so that's kind of another thing in addition to where we're talking to add on to it.
I am actually really happy that you said it is hard, because it is. It's not hard on paper. It's hard
Yeah. Oh yeah.
to actually
Yeah.
execute. So it's
Exactly.
like that was, I'm really happy you said that, because yeah, it is hard. It's not hard, but it is hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
explain that. It's hard to explain. It's hard to
It's
explain that
easy to
mindset.
see. It's
Yes.
easy to see what needs to be done, to actually either do the work or humble yourself to the point of being able to do the work, or all those things. That's when, yeah, it
Preparing your mind and body in case, because I mean, how much do we worry every day about rejection, and about, how is this situation going to turn out? It doesn't matter if you have anxiety or not, or whatever, you still worry when you get into those high stress situations like that means a lot to you, and that's why you freak out about it, and that's why it's
yeah,
hard to do, because it means so much. So we all get stuck in our brains, and it's just, you're worried, okay, so you have to do this exactly right, so what if it doesn't work out right? What does my life look like after this if it doesn't go well? And it stops a lot of us from taking that step. That shouldn't be hard, but it is hard.
and just to focus on the fire service area of that. Firefighters are the worst when it comes to picking at somebody. And for the
Mhm.
most part, I think that's a good thing because you can use it for good. You can use it to make each other better. You can use it for fun and for camaraderie. But at the same time, yeah, that's always in everybody's mind that if I don't do this right, if I look stupid, I'm going to hear about it for 3 more years because they're going to wear me out about it. And
Yes.
that's always at the back of everybody's mind, whether you want to admit it or not.
Do something
And
stupid on
so,
your
yeah.
first day and you're screwed for the rest of your
Oh, yeah.
career.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's a hurdle that you have to overcome right there. I try to, I try to put myself out there to do things that I'm not even, when we're training, most of the stuff we do doesn't have anything to do with my particular role on scenes. I'm not going to be pulling lines. I'm not going to be forcing doors. All of these things we're doing, it's not really my job, but I want to do it. Uh, I want to do it so that I'm good enough that I can teach others, but I also want to do it just to put myself out there and show them, I'm willing to fail at this. It's not my job. You guys, you better be better at it than me because it's your job.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing that, hopefully it shows them that okay, if he's able to make himself look stupid doing something, it's okay if I do it too. So that's kind of another thing that I try to really use those situations for is being an example of it's okay to mess up. It's good, failing and doing something less than perfect is good because that's going to help us next time do better.
I want to say that reminds me of, I think it's Multiple Calls podcast has been putting out the rules for senior firefighters and stuff. And I'm pretty sure that was one of his that I saw one day that really resonated with me that, as a senior firefighter, you should be willing to fail in front of people. You should be one of the ones to go up and be okay to look dumb doing something to inspire others that it's okay to learn.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally agree with that.
so when it comes to getting back into the family stuff a little bit here, we just tend to go into fire stuff. That's like where our brains
That's all
want
right.
to go. But going back into family when it comes with you and your wife, you're saying that you go to concerts and you spend time together and stuff, so what are some things like that or other things that you do to make things work, or what are some things you've done in the past that you realize does not work to keep relationships going well?
So, and the note that I said that I was writing before when we first started this, it kind of encompasses all of this, and it's balance. One word, balance. It's one word, but it is a huge, huge word, and it is a word that I don't feel like we ever just get to. I feel
Mhm.
like it's something we have constantly got to reevaluate and redirect our paths towards because things are always changing. And for me, the past 2 years, especially when I've been doing this stuff, the podcasting, the now kind of going out and teaching classes, helping instruct hot days, you know, going to conferences, things like that. I have really had to be very intentional about balance because she's had to kind of address it several times to where I am out of balance. I'm putting a lot of time, and not only time, but a lot of my focus. Even when I'm with family, I might not be focusing on it because I've got a topic in my head that I need to get out, or
Mhm.
I'm trying to schedule this or that. Whatever it is, I've had to kind of be checked back into place, and thankfully she's been willing to do that instead of just kind of being resentful that it's not happening. But that's the key to it is trying to figure out a way to, for me, I don't do this stuff. I definitely don't do it for money, but I don't do it just because I'm trying to find some time to feel. The things that I do that we've talked about are things that I want and feel I need to do because I feel like that's part of my purpose. So when I don't have that opportunity, it really starts eating at me. So I have to put some weight into that. That has some buy-in at the table of all of this. but my family has a big piece of that as well. And so, I got to kind of pick and choose what I'm doing off duty in this area so that it doesn't start weighing too heavy in that side. Last year is a great example of that. In 2020, when I first started, I I think I had like 96 episodes of podcasts out. I was posting all the time,
Insane.
regularly, a lot. And I was enjoying it. And I didn't really notice that it was a lot. I felt like I was kind of maintaining it well. I was doing all the recording in the mornings when nobody was home. I wasn't taking away time, when they were here. I just didn't see it as a problem. So towards the end of 2020 comes around and the first of 2021, we had some serious family stuff hit. And I just kind of, because something that really handcuffed me to all that is I decided to start a schedule on this stuff. I was doing a short episode on Monday and an episode with a guest. I think I was releasing on Thursday, so two every week.
That's a lot to
And
keep up with.
yeah, and that kind of, I was kind of felt like I was married to that.
Mhm.
And so the family stuff hit, and I decided to stop. I just needed to stop. And once I did that, it was almost like it was a plug that once I pulled it, is like I don't really want to do that for a while. It once I kind of got away from that set schedule, it took me a long time to get back into it. I threw out, and like I said, 90 something episodes that first year. In 2020, the second year, I think I only had like 13. So it is a drastic difference. And the posts were pretty much the same, very few. And so, but like I said, that time, that focus had to be towards my family. And so that had to happen. But now, kind of getting away from some of that stuff has smoothed out. Some things have happened that have kind of allowed me to start back into it.
Mhm.
It took me quite a while to really get back into it. It was almost like that part of my mind was just gone, or my heart, wherever this stuff is coming from, it just wasn't there. And so I had to really figure out how to get back into it. It was weird because I really enjoy it. And so it's not like I didn't like it. I didn't have to force myself into it because I didn't enjoy it. But that piece of me was just, it wasn't very visible. And so I had to kind of work myself into all of that. But yeah, I mean, that balance in our lives is really the only thing that makes it work. If when I find myself out of balance, we start not doing good. So I have to maintain some type of balance that we're doing good. We've got time with the kids, we've got time with each other. I've got time to do some of this stuff, so I feel better about things. And so, you already have a job that you're gone every night that you work. It's not just a job where you come home every night. When I'm at work, I'm gone that whole night. And so you're already taking away a lot of time for that. And so
Mhm.
you you only have a little bit of time left. A third of my life is just off the table. It's not even an option. So I'm only working with two-thirds of my life right off the bat. On top of that, a couple of years ago, I decided to try to do a little bit of volunteering where I'm from, the little town I live in. And I don't bring it up very often because honestly, I don't do much. I feel bad for that because I don't really, I don't have that much time to give to them. But when I am available, I try to do my best. But they're very low on that poll. As much as I hate to say, I'm not trying to say anything bad about that, but that's low on that priority list. And so, that's part of that balance thing. Can I do some training with them this week? Well, you know, we just got back from doing something a couple weeks ago. I go on shift tomorrow. I better not even ask. That's
Mhm.
probably something that I shouldn't even think about. And that's just, it's the give and take of it all. And so it's not something that I have mastered absolutely by any means. It's something that I'm continually learning over time to just kind of figure out. So that is the key, is as far as that question for me is how we make it work, is balancing it out, everything.
I think a lot of people, when they think of balance, and I am this way too, it's you think of 50-50. You think it has to be everything. You give the same amount of time for everything, but that's not necessarily what balance is. Balance is making sure everything gets the appropriate weight to it that it deserves. And so so it's I find myself doing it too, like you were saying, how like you have the thought on your head of a topic or something like I do that all the time, and it drives my husband nuts sometimes. It's like I was in church a few weeks ago and I had a topic come into my head and I had to quick write on my phone. And that's not the time where I should be jumping to my phone to write down a podcast topic, and like watching a movie, trying to relax, the little time we get, the time we get to spend together and stuff. That shouldn't be the time that I'm thinking about other stuff, and it takes a lot of mindfulness. I don't know.
What,
Whereas
but
you have to be very
but for
present with
me,
yourself to do it, to keep yourself from doing it.
and maybe it's kind of the same for you, is that's my way to deal with it and move on. If I have
Mhm.
something in my head, write down a quick note
And
so
you
that
stop
it's there.
thinking
So you
about
don't
it.
have to worry about, okay, I'm not going to remember this, or I'm just continuing to remember it. That's a good way to get it out,
Mhm.
put it somewhere where it's not going to get lost, and then get back to what you're doing. I don't think there's an issue with that at all. I think
Yeah.
that's a good way to kind of to keep some of those things moving while focusing on what's still important.
And I mean, that is true. And now that you say that, I think about it, it's like, okay, after I do get it out, then I do go back to what I was doing.
Yep.
It's just, I wish I wouldn't do that so much. I wish, I mean, like, it's great because that means, the things I'm thinking about come from
Yep.
normal everyday situations, which is what I want to talk about. Right. But it's like, oh, I wish this wouldn't happen so much. But yeah, with the balance of everything, it's not always 50-50. I was doing an episode, one of the first guest episodes I was doing. I was talking to somebody and we were going on of, talking about your legacy and like, does it really matter with the fire service with your legacy? Yes and no. But your family's where your legacy's at. The family is who's going to remember who you are mostly and tell their kids and grandkids about it and stuff like that. And that's where 2/3 of your life gets spent, as like we are just talking about. And you just need to make sure that when you're there, you're present, and just trying to find that balance can be very difficult for a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people. And I think it's just an ongoing process, like you were saying before. Things are going to happen in life where you have to give a little bit more weight to some areas and other. And then, yeah, you're going to find out that, okay, if something's starting to fall off over here, you need to give it more attention. And I wish there was an easy formula for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's There's not, unless if you come up with something, I'd appreciate you sharing it with me, because I don't
I
think
think if
so.
anyone comes up with an easy formula, don't believe them.
Yeah.
But
Something, but I guess something I was thinking about earlier. You're talking about kind of some ways of making it work. Uh, so last year, the trying to think what county, what the heck, county fire tactics, is that what they are, out of
yeah,
Pensacola? Chief
yeah.
Isaacson. They've got their series of conferences, and I know that's this is kind of the last year, and they're changing some things up. But they have a conference in May called Command Officer Boot Camp, and we had the opportunity to go to that last year. And so this conference in particular is made for to be spouse friendly. And so basically, kind of the format is the first day is kind of for everybody. It's they've got some speakers that kind of cater to not only the firefighters but the spouse as well. So the spouses are in there, and then the next 2 or 3, however many more days there are, it's just for firefighters, and they have some activities for the spouses while they're in those lectures if they want to attend. And so I think that was a really cool thing to be a part of. I think it is really neat to be able to not only connect with firefighters for us, but for our spouses. And you have both of you are firefighters, so it doesn't really mean the same with you guys, but for families that are just a firefighter and a spouse, to not only have those connections with the firefighters, but to add now spouses are starting to get connected and they're starting
Mhm.
to build friendships. That's huge. My like I said, my wife is more of an introvert, so she's not into the whole meeting everybody and hanging out and making new friends, which is fine. I kind of wish she was more that way so that she would have a little bit of, some more connections that are that are people that are married to firefighters like she is. And so, I wish that might be the case, but still, she enjoyed that trip because she got to go sit at the beach the entire day when I was in the classroom by herself reading a book, and she loved it.
Mhm.
And after we were done with class, we hung out, we ate, we did whatever together. So I got to have my little firefighting time. She got to have some personal alone time, and then we got to have time together at night, and it was great. It was awesome. And so I think, I've kind of started seeing some other ones think towards that. Bears of the Oath is another great one. Those are super great guys that are kind of running that. I think they're kind of starting to incorporate some of that spouse friendliness with some of the things they do. And that's, if we can get towards that, if we can start getting more in that kind of mindset, I think you're going to really see these conferences and trainings take off even more, because now we're able to incorporate everybody together, the families, and get the good out of those things. That's a good way to really help all this stuff take off.
I love the conferences that have been putting the quote unquote fire wife and there's the family side of it together into it. It is so cool to see from the outside. I mean yeah, definitely both my husband and I are both firefighters, but when it comes to the career side, there's stuff that I want advice on, or I want to talk to other spouses with, like, how do you deal with this? How does it work? Like it's been such a different dynamic for our fire careers up until this point where he's career and I'm volunteer. It's like, how does this work? It's still, I still get that firework perspective. And it's like, this is weird still, even though I know
Yep.
everything that's happening and I understand all this stuff or whatever, and I get his mindset, it's still weird. I still have that spousal mindset of stuff. And it's like, I want answers. And like, there'd be times, especially like if there was something that I could easily go to closer where I could get that spouse experience from it, I would be very interested to see how it works, how they, what it's like, and just talk about it to people and just get their perspectives on what's happening, because I don't know, it's something that is very much needed. The fire service is everything I used to hear about it. It used to be a big family thing, especially in the volunteer world. It went away from that, at least in a lot of areas, from what I've been talking to other people in my own experiences. It turned into something you volunteer for and you love, but it was just for the people who were in there. And
Yep.
now it's starting to open up again. And the places that are seeing that open up are seeing people have more buy-in to it, have more passion for it, because they're able to bring their family in if they want to. And like you said, just going on a little mini vacation with your wife, while you're going and doing fire stuff, it's a way to kind of have best of both worlds. And you're still spending time together where you wouldn't have before. And it's just something so nice. And I'm hoping, yeah, like you said, I'm hoping more conferences start looking into that, because it's needed.
Mhm.
And
That
having those
definitely makes it
connections.
easier.
Oh yeah, having those connections too as a spouse and is would be invaluable. Just like all of us as firefighters have our connections to everybody across the US. I mean, there's so much that does not get talked about yet, even when it comes to the spousal side. There are some good podcasts and pages and groups out there that are doing really good things.
Oh
You know, I was like off the top of my head, what you have the Firewife Life, you have Firefighter Wife, you have Dear Chiefs podcast stuff. I'm trying to think of another one. Those are the three that I know off the top of my head that are really good ones out there doing good stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good to see, and hopefully, kind of that continues and just starts spreading like wildfire, like all the other things. There's so many
yeah.
firefighter centered podcasts. It's crazy, but that's good. I mean, everybody's got their own little message, and so it's awesome to see.
Yeah. Oh man, we've talked for a while. Is there anything else with family stuff that you'd like to touch on at all?
Yeah, I mean,
Like there's, I think we talked about it already. You could go for weeks talking about all this stuff.
it's it's been a yeah, it's been something else, the past, I would say, shoot, I don't know. The past 20 years have been quite the experience. I don't even know how to kind of get into it, but we did talk a little bit about being a single dad, and kind of like we talked about yesterday over the phone is I don't want to take away anything from single moms. I
Mhm.
totally respect single moms and everything they do and have to do to make things work. But there is a whole other demographic out there that does exist, and you don't hear about it a lot. But there are a lot of single dads out there doing the exact same thing and struggling with the exact same things. And so, you know, if that is you out there, man, you can do it. You can. You're going to have help, and hopefully you're going to have some support. Hopefully you can find that. But there are a lot of great guys out there doing everything they can to raise up their kids and doing it by themselves. And so I think that is just a kind of a group of people that don't get much towards them, much uh, attention as far as what they're going through. But yeah, and I don't even know kind of how to get into it. But that the past 20 years with me, you've already heard a lot of what I've struggled with, a lot of what I've gone through recently. But there was a decade in there that I lived and was married to a basically a narcotic addict, an addict that put us through a lot. A I can't even go into everything that we had to deal with because of that, and it wasn't anything that my choices made. It wasn't anything that my actions made or my kids. We were just put in that situation, and so those years were very hard, very very hard to live through some of that and to try to do the best you could for the kids that you had. And so, oh, anybody that is going through that, I'm not saying that we're home free right now. We got we got crap we're fighting through all the time still. Something is happening that we got to deal with. But to make it through that, if we can do that, you can do it too. There are lots of outlets out there to get some support, or reach out to people that maybe are willing to share their story that you've heard, or whatever else. And I'm I I don't just kind of bring this stuff up on my own
Mm-hmm.
very often, just because it's not just fun stuff to talk about. But at the same time, I'm definitely willing to share these stories and these experiences and what has helped me through, if it's going to help somebody else.
Oh,
I
definitely.
have nothing to hide in that area, but just know that you can find help. It's out there. And on the flip side of that, and maybe even more importantly, if you are somebody that has been through those things, or somebody that's fighting those fights, or whatever else, if you see opportunity to share some of those things with somebody that is struggling, please don't please don't lose that opportunity. I- if you see somebody that is probably going through a little bit of what you've been through, and you have something that can help them in that process, man, it's it is so vital and so critical for us to share that with them. And for me, just kind of the way I like to describe it is, if I keep all of that stuff inside and don't share any of it, it makes all of that I went through absolutely worthless. All those struggles that we went through, all the times that you know the scare and the fear and the nerve, all of that bad stuff, it is absolutely a waste. I completely went through it for nothing if I don't share it. But if I do share it, it makes everything we went through worth it, because hopefully we can help somebody else in the future. And so that's really, and I don't, like I said, I didn't really know how to to address that, or kind of work it into anything we have talked about. But that's something that I feel like needs to be said. And like I said, I don't just lay it out there very often. I've really never said anything about any of that stuff
Hmm.
publicly. But like I said, if I don't bring it up, I might be robbing somebody of something that they need to hear,
Well,
or somebody that needs help. So go ahead.
like we were talking about earlier, at the beginning of this podcast, is there's stuff we've gone through that we thought we were the only ones, and we
Yep.
didn't, or it just, we don't talk about the crap that is life and that we go through. And if we were to only talk about it a little bit more, you almost make someone feel better that they're not the only ones going through it. Right. And that's something that I try to do a lot on this podcast. I think you try to do a lot on yours and things, is just try to get real and tell people the actual things that we're going through and the crap that is, because it's not all rainbow and sunshine as much as we want it to be. And as much as I try to be positive, there are just some episodes or some topics that I can't be happy about. And I just have to let the crap out so people can hear things aren't perfect. But you're
Yep.
not the only one going through this, because I can guarantee you, if you're going through something, you're not unique. Somebody else has gone through it or will go through it later.
Yep.
And it's incredible to hear you open up about that, because no, I've never heard about that kind of stuff. And it's something that I know somebody needs to hear. You're talking about it for a reason, just kind of like, how we've been talking about that too this whole time. You're talking about it for a reason. You wanted to bring it up for a reason. And I don't know what that reason is yet. And you probably don't either. But somebody out there is going to hear this, hopefully. And whether it be now or maybe it's years from now, and realize, hey, this gets them to think about something differently. Maybe they reach out, who knows what it is. And if even if it's just the comfort of knowing, oh, somebody else went through this, I'm not alone. That's it. That's all I need to hear. But
Yep. Absolutely.
oh man.
Yeah.
I I don't know, I can't even imagine, if you're willing to go into anything, was there anything that you went through it with it that did help you go through it, or anything?
Uh, anything that I went through that helped.
Sorry, that was worded
I'm just
terribly
trying to. I'm just trying to wrap my trying to wrap my head around
around the
uh
question. So it is there,
some.
with that whole situation.
Yeah, some ways I dealt with it that made it easier. Is that kind of what you're?
Possibly, yeah. Let's just go into that way. Like I said, only if you're willing to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about anything you want to talk about.
You're way too open. I'm not used to people wanting to be this open with it. So,
I Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, and something else that I don't think I've ever, just said over publicly, but I never drunk. I've never drank alcohol until I was 35. I think 35. Literally, I never drank a drop of alcohol until I was remarried to my wife now.
Mhm.
So I didn't have that. And maybe that was a good thing. Maybe it was a good thing that I didn't have a unhealthy kind of, I don't trying to think of what the word is for it.
Outlet
The
or,
outlet. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't use that as a way to cope with things. And so that was probably good because who knows, where that would have gone.
Mhm.
But, for me, I've always been a big faith guy. Even when things are not great, I know that eventually it's going to work out. Even when I don't maybe under the surface believe it, deeper under the surface, I know that sooner or later, one way or another, it's gonna we're gonna make it through there. So I think that's always kind of helped some really, and I'm just kind of throwing this stuff out as I'm thinking about it because this is a pretty deep question. I mean, you could
Mhm.
sit and really probably dig into it over time, but I think probably my biggest thing that helped me keep going, that helped me make it through, was the kids. I was it. The kids didn't have any other option. If I couldn't hold things together, if I couldn't make things work, then there was no plan B for them. Or maybe I was playing, I don't know. There was no next level. And so that was something that really, that's what made me hold on. As hard as things got here and there, I knew that I had to hold it together for them. And to be honest, that I would say more days than not, that's probably the only thing that I had going for me. That's the only thing that I had keeping me going, is that I knew that if I didn't make it work, then uh, you know there is no other option. So I
Mhm.
had to do it. And like I said earlier, I didn't do this on my own. I'm not trying to say at all I did it on my own, because I had lots of help as far as kind of watching them and all that. And one of the something I will bring up, because it's good to say it. Now, I went through, and I don't know for sure, I'm guessing probably 5 years of this. I went through without saying a word to anybody at work,
Mhm.
and struggling with this and fighting this, and nobody at work knowing what was going on. And really, the only thing that accomplished was everybody just thought I was a grouch. Everybody thought that I didn't probably like the job. Everybody saw who I was and had no context as far as why I was like that. I was completely worn out. I had no mental, emotional, anything for anybody when I was at work, because it was all used up at home.
Mhm.
And so one day I just happened to open up to one of my better friends at that time about some things that were going on. And the weird thing is when I did that, he started opening up about some things he had going on. Neither one of us knew anything about either one of them. And honestly, we probably did a pretty good job of hiding all that. But just seeing that process of n- opening up and helping myself to kind of feel better to get it out, not only did that happen, but it also showed somebody else that it was okay to open up, and that helped them feel better. And now we have each other that we know are going through not really similar situations, but struggles the same. We're struggling through things, we're fighting through things, we have things that aren't you know the best situations going on, but now we have each other. And so that was a huge turning point really in my life. That was the day that I figured out what the word transparency means.
Mhm.
I was always somebody that just kept it to myself, because I just didn't want anybody to know. It was embarrassing. There was just so many things you could tie it to. But at that moment, I figured out the importance of being transparent. And and I think that has really molded my life, or sent it in a completely different path than it was headed, because that's a huge, huge thing. And some of the things I've already, you know, for better or worse, I'm sitting here admitting to, about myself. It comes from that moment. It comes
Mhm.
from the moment that I figured out how important it is to be honest and open with people, to really not only help it get it off your chest, but to help others with that story. That was a big moment for me. And so from that moment, lots of people knew what was going on, and I didn't care. It wasn't me making these choices. It wasn't me doing all this stuff. Me and the kids, we were just bystanders of it. So it was nice to have some understanding. It was nice to be able to just, just to be free and not kind of be living in secrecy. So those were all kind of things that helped me kind of get through it. Like I said, I would say for sure the kids were at the top of that list of what kind of helped me. I would say stay focused, but what helped me to keep clawing and keep going. Because there were some days, man, I didn't have anything to give. I would drop the kids off at daycare right before going to the firehouse, and I would have to sit there and play some. I was listening to a lot of Christian music back then because it kind of something else that kind of helped me going.
Mhm.
And I would intentionally play some of the most tear jerking songs I could find and
Yeah.
just get it out because
Mhm.
I had to. I didn't want to bring that to the firehouse, and so just get it out right there in the parking lot and dry it up, head to the firehouse, and get to work. And so, man, it it wasn't pretty. There was none of it that was by the book or pretty or anything that I could say, I did great in this area, but we made it through. And that's about as good as I would say that we did. But we did. We made it through. Things are so much better now. 10 years ago, I would have never thought that we'd be living in kind of the place that we live, the house that we have, the being able to go outside and pet animals whenever we want to. Just the life we have, it's crazy to see where we are now compared to back then, and know that while we still have struggles and while we still have kids that are going to cause us problems all the time, if you got more than two or three, you probably got something to deal with every day, because even if one of them's not causing trouble, another one is. So if you got four or five or eight, it's just a nonstop stream of issues. But that's something that is normal. That's normal family stuff that we can handle. And thankfully, even though sometimes, oh, more times on her side, she gets irritated more at me, days, but we get irritated at each other sometimes. And it's okay. It's okay to be irritated at each other. We don't really ever fight. We get in, arguments or disagreements, but it doesn't last for long. We get back into life. We get back into enjoying each other. I have a wife that I can somewhat mirror my relationship of, my firehouse members. We harass each other, we pick at each other some, but we also love each other, and kind of we have the foundation of that underneath it. But it's nice to have somebody you can have fun with and kind
Mhm.
of play around with, and be not so serious with sometimes. And so, yeah, it's been quite a journey, but to be through all of the really bad stuff at this point, hopefully it's nice to kind of be somewhat into a normal life now. So that's makes you very grateful for just the common issues that you face nowadays.
Yeah. Just touching on opening up at the station. So many of us as firefighters are really good at hiding what's really wrong or hiding our emotions. We hide specific emotions, but like you were talking about, they come out in other ways where you were being seen as grouchy. Um, I've before been seen as distant or just not caring,
Yep.
or I'll zone out if I'm having something I'm going through. It's something that's very common for me. So eventually people start to learn that if I'm doing stuff like that, that's not normal, something else is wrong. But I mean, people don't know you, especially imagine you're stepping into a new crew for the first time or something like that. You don't know who people are, you don't know how they act. And even so, if you keep that persona up for years, people just assume it's just who you are and you're just frustrated with the job or whatever. And there's usually something else going on beneath it. There's a reason why they're grouchy. People won't be upset for no reason, but it's not always with the job. They may say it is. You may be able to pick out reasons. Oh, well, this is why, it's because of this or because they're so overstressed at work or something like that. When it's something completely separate, a different issue. And opening up about it with somebody is the I don't know, it's such a good answer to it, but you have to it's that whole, it's not hard, but it's hard. You have to take that first step to start doing it, and it's tough to talk about. But like anything else, the more you do it, if you start doing it once, even just with one person, it it starts to become easier. It might still be hard to talk about. It's still going to be one of those awkward conversations that everyone gets all quiet or like doesn't know what to say back to you, right?
Mhm.
But eventually it'll get easier, and you're going to start opening up other people's minds of like, oh, this stuff is okay to talk about. Okay, I'm actually really going through something, and it's something that can slowly have a good effect on your firehouse, on your family, even if your family is this way. I mean, heck, I love my family to death, but there are times with my family we don't talk about certain things or about some actual core things that really should matter, just because you either want to keep the peace or you just don't know how other people are going to react to it, and so you don't talk about it, and so you put on that face for even your family, and it's not good. You start building your family on subtle lies and personas of yourself that aren't truly you anymore, it seems like. And so yeah, if you start getting grouchy with your family pretty easy, you got to stop and look, and it's like, okay, is there something I need to get out? Is there someone I need to talk to get this off my chest, to start talking to somebody? And it doesn't have to be a therapist, even though that's what most people recommend, and I mean, I would recommend it if you need one, but you just got to find someone to start talking to, start saying it. And it's amazing what something like that will do for you.
Yeah. And you don't ever know what it's going to do. And
Mhm.
and to be honest, you never will, because there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes or down the road in the future that are going to happen good because of that you might never even see. You
Yeah.
might be helping somebody and they don't say anything about it, but you are. Or you might be helping somebody and you know about that, but now they're helping somebody else. And it's just like I like to, one of my classes, I've got a slide of a dandelion, somebody's blowing a dandelion. And that to me is kind of the visualization of some of this stuff. And it goes into, mentoring and sharing your fire service experience too. But it's all the same. If you take that dandelion full of all these things we're talking about and you blow it and you put it out there, there is no telling where it's going to end up. There's no telling the ripples that you can cause. But if you don't blow on it, if you don't do that, if you don't put that information out there, you don't take the effort and the time to share, then I guarantee you the answer of people that you're going to impact is going to be zero. That's a
Mhm.
for sure. You can't, that there's no question about that. So just taking the time and caring enough and being honest enough and humble enough, sometimes it takes a lot of humility sometimes. But to do that, there's no telling how many people you can truly have some type of either direct or indirect impact on. So that's a big deal for me.
Man. This is deep and awesome, and I love it, and it's just I oh man, it's overwhelming in the best way. Um it's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know exactly where to go from here. But like I said, overwhelming in the best way of just these are the conversations I love. These are the conversations I want to have. These are the conversations I want to listen to. I want to see more happening in the fire service of these talks.
Yeah.
So so we can just get the real stuff on the table.
Yeah. And that's, I kind of mentioned it yesterday when we were talking to get prepared for this. For me personally, with my podcast, some of my favorite episodes, some of my favorite conversations that were episodes, I guess I'll say, were the ones that we talked about stuff that they weren't even really known for. Like for one, I've mentioned it several times, is Chief Andy Starnes.
Oh, that episode.
Huge,
My goodness.
huge, huge thermal imaging guy. I mean, he's probably one of the top, if not the very top person to
Mhm.
deal and teach thermal imaging cameras in the nation or the world, probably even. I don't think we brought up thermal imaging one time in that episode,
Nope, I don't
but it
think
was
so.
one of my favorite episodes because it was this. It was honest, just true, talk, caring, sharing story, whatever else. And the other one that I like to bring up a lot is, well, two of them. I'll just real quick. Two of them. Frank Viscuso was another one.
Mm.
Yeah, we talked about some leadership stuff that he's known for, but it was a lot of just family talk. He's a huge family guy. Family is big to him, which obviously family is big to me too. And so that was an inspiring episode for me, or conversation for me, to become a better dad just by listening to him. And the third one, uh, I'd never really talked to this guy before the episode. I hadn't heard a lot about him, but I got to have a conversation with Rick George. And if you don't know who Rick George is, he spells his name RICJORGE. If you don't know who he is, you need to go look him up right now, because he is one of the best people I've ever known. I am lucky enough to still kind of communicate with him here and there. A couple months ago, he sent me a text checking on me. It's like, dude, you're you're an amazing person in all of the fire service realm, and you're checking on me,
Yeah, what are you
see
doing?
how I'm doing. It's crazy, but this
Mhm.
dude is amazing, and the story of his life is one that you can't make this stuff up for a movie. I mean, he describes himself growing up as a how does he describe himself? A hood rat, or street trash, or something like that. Hood, some type of just basically, he was a mess. He was a lost mess, and he will admit, right to you, that that's what he was. And to talk his way through some of that, and to see who he is now, and the man that he has become, it's absolutely inspiring. And that tells you right there, if he didn't share his story with others, if he doesn't, let people know, not only this is where I'm at, but this is where I came from,
Mhm.
and all of the stuff in the middle. If he doesn't do that, there is no telling how many thousands of people aren't benefiting from that story. If he keeps that inside, it would be incredible to kind of have an idea of how many people he's impacted. But it wouldn't happen if he didn't share it. And so, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because that's how I am too. I love talking leadership. I love talking fire service. But when you can incorporate some of this other stuff in with it, on
Mhm.
top of it, or whatever, that's when it really kind of makes a huge impact on me personally. Even if I'm the one hosting, I am still impacted greatly by these conversations.
We are people at our core. We're firefighters, we do work, yes, but we're people. And if you don't know how to deal with people, and if you don't know how to deal with your own brain, that's the building block for everything else. And like those are the classes I gravitate towards. If I can take a class at a conference, of course I love the fire stuff. I'm going to go for hands-on training and stuff too, but if I can find talking about how to deal with personnel, how to talk to people, how behavioral stuff, why we do what we do, how we work better as a team for it, how we can utilize, our differences for things, you know, especially, yeah, that's another reason why, like when I said earlier, doing the fire wife portion of, some of these conferences, going through that's the stuff I want to learn about. That's the stuff I love seeing, because that is the building blocks of who we are. It's crazy. Oh man. Yeah. This has been fantastic. I don't know. And like you brought up that Andy Starnes episode, and it's just, I remember that one. I think I've listened to that one about 6 or 7 times. Um, it is a fantastic episode. And the first time I listened to it, I just had to stop and rewind a few times. I'm like, oh my goodness, I needed to hit me again, because
Yeah.
I just need to stop and sit and reflect on it for a second.
Yeah.
And it was such a powerful episode. I'm so thankful for you for recording that, for making that happen, because it was awesome. It helped me a lot. So
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, you're talking to Corley Moore, and basically
Mhm.
both of you kind of just being surprised at how willing people are to come on and just
Yeah.
kind of have conversations or get to know all of that stuff. Well, that's what makes all of this possible. It's because there are so many amazing people in the fire service. There's so many amazing people everywhere. But if this is our niche, this is kind of the area that we're kind of in, the fire service area. Even if we want to branch out to family stuff, it's still kind of centered around that. But it, if we can if we can get these people on and really just dig into who they are, why they are who they are, and what they've learned, what they've been through, it's crazy how amazing some of these people are. I mean, and that's when you really get the most out of these conversations is get out of just the surface stuff. Yeah, this person might be very well known for teaching this or that, around the nation, but there's so much more than that, and just to take the time to ask and to dig into it, and hopefully the willingness is there to share it, because it's it's great. That's why I really love this stuff, is really kind of learning and being inspired from so many other people, and starting to be connected to all these people, so that you have a solid base of resources, and just a network of people you can kind of reach out to when certain things come up. So
Oh yeah.
it's great.
Well, and for people listening to this too, it's like, you don't have to have a podcast to make those conversations
Oh,
happen.
no, no,
No,
no,
go
absolutely
go to
not.
your next
Yeah.
conference. Go even at your fire
Yep.
station, just with people or mutual aid training or whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah, talk about fire stuff, because we like that. But talk about that too. But start talking about family stuff. Start talking about life. Ask them how they got into it. Ask them, how they make things work. Or I mean, whatever questions come to your head. I'm a full believer that there are no stupid questions, because I'm usually the one asking the stupid questions. So,
Yeah.
start asking the stuff that seems unrelated, but are greatly related to the rest of their life. I mean, we make decisions in life that we think only affect one area, but they affect all areas. And so, yeah, you don't have to have a podcast to be asking these questions to people. Just start
No, no.
talking and asking. And, you go up to an instructor that you're afraid to talk to at a conference, go up and talk to them at the bar, or at, during lunch or whatever, wherever you happen at, right after class, right before class, and start asking them questions. Most of the time, they are very down to earth from what I found.
Yeah.
you know, People who get in those spots tend to be people who they're people. They like teaching. They want to talk to you, and start talking conversations and seeing, a little bit more about their life. And it's probably, yeah, like we're talking about, they might be more into it because it's something different that they're not used to talking about, and they want to let it out finally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this has been great. And I know we could just keep going over and over and like onto more stuff. And like, if you bring something else up interesting, I might be starting to dig into that too. But oh, this has been amazing having you on today.
I appreciate it. I've enjoyed the conversation too. I'm sure
So
there's lots to dig in further in any of that stuff. And if
yeah.
come up with anything else, we can definitely come back and do it again another time for part 2 or whatever.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. So I'm gonna see you in July. Yeah,
Yep.
July at Revolutionary Fire Tactics at the Lake. Excited to try that one out for my first time this year. Are there any other places you're teaching at coming up or?
I will be at the SAFER conference. That's South Atlantic Fire Rescue Expo in Raleigh, North Carolina. I believe it's August. So
Awesome.
that's the only other one set up right now. I'm doing a couple of little small teaching things around kind of my area, but as far as out there. But yeah, looking forward to that. Doing a class that just basically kind of finished up a few months ago, talking about the impact we can have. Really, a lot of the stuff we talked about today, just the impact that we can have. But we got to go outside our walls of our department to do it. There's such a huge world out there that we can be impacting if we just kind of reach out and do it. So looking forward to that and meeting some new people, reconnecting with some old friends, and it's a good time.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
So if people, I'm assuming like what they heard and they want to talk to you more about it, how can they find you?
So to find me, it's pretty easy. I try to make it as easy as I can. Everything basically is Crew First Culture. It's with the one ST. So Facebook, Crew First Culture, Instagram, Crew First Culture. Got a website out now that's crewfirstculture.com. And pretty much find any kind of content you want. The podcast is basically anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Love for anybody to listen and see if you like it. Got some really great guests in the past, like Taylor says, some impactful conversations, and just some things that I'll record some things by myself that come to mind, and just put out things that I really feel the message pulling that needs to come out. But that's the Crew First Culture podcast. And if you want to contact me, either Facebook or Instagram, direct messaging, or at crewfirstculture@yahoo.com is the email. Not the greatest at emails. Sometimes they slip through. So
Yeah.
if you don't hear from an email, you might try the messaging route. But
Or sometimes
yeah,
they come in a week late for some reason.
yeah, I don't know why that happened.
That was weird. Technology is fun, but anyways, so no, it's been great having you on. I will definitely be trying to have you on again. It might be a little while, but
That's fine.
I know
No
we can
problem.
dig into so many other things. Oh man, there's I don't know. I just so many opinions on so many different topics that I think we could have a good time going through and just
Yep.
digging into the crap, as
Oh yeah.
and the sludge of it all. So,
Yep.
but
Sounds good. I appreciate having me on very much. It's an honor every time that somebody asks me on their personal show. I do take it very serious. It's very, like I said, it's an honor to think that they feel like their time is worth having me on. And so thank you very much for that. I hope that somebody out there gets a little bit from it and reaches out and kind of let you know.
awesome. Well, to everybody who's listening, I will see you next week on the podcast. As always, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but it will be hopefully a fun one. So you guys have a good day, night, or whatever time you're listening to this, and I will catch you on the next episode. Thanks for coming by and listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Couplings Fire Podcast. See you next time, everybody.